Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another Sims info/thoughts video. So this one is focused on some Q&A with SimGuru Grant on various topics, including cruise ships, zodiac signs, the reasoning behind my first pet stuff, and more. So it's not about stuff that is 100% confirmed to be coming to the game, but is still interesting to kind of hear, at least in my opinion. But let's get started. So with cruise ships, Mavin Clyde asks, I hope this doesn't fall under hashtag pin tweet, but with cruise ships, ability to own one as well, with the chance of sinking and watching it sink with Sims getting on lifeboats if player puts any down, be too much to add to the game. And Grant says, we actually looked into cruise ships. It tested very badly. And I couldn't help but laugh a little at this because this sounded like a request that is little more than to have an elaborate scheme to kill off a whole bunch of Sims at once. And then when Manny Mandrakes asks, what does tested badly generally entail, like internal discussion, external surveys, game testers evaluating? Just curious about this process of looking into concepts. And Grant replies saying, in this case, qualitative research for new themes and features, external groups run by professionals. So I guess in the end, these professionals realize that maybe not enough Simmers want cruise ships in The Sims, and if that's the case, I can totally understand that, because I do see the occasional request for cruise ships, but just not really that many. And personally, I haven't really thought that much about cruise ships myself, because it does feel like you need to have some sort of different setup to make it work properly, because, well, I'm assuming if you have Sims on a cruise ship, you'd want to actually go out into the ocean, not just stay at the port the whole time. But I guess if they were to make an environment where the cruise ship actually is out on the ocean, you'd have to hit a loading screen to go to a different district where it's pretty much all ocean the whole time. There's like a little bit of scenery, like you'll see an island once in a while, or some whales and dolphins, stuff like that. But I think they'd have to have it so that it somehow goes on a loop, so you're not just stuck in this really small place, because then the cruise ship wouldn't be able to really move around all that much. I know that might sound a little bit confusing, but yeah, it is a confusing concept to me as well to really make it work in the context of The Sims, because I don't think they've really done a world that repeats itself over and over in movement, so that would probably be very challenging to do. But I guess in a general sense, what I'm trying to say is I'm not sure how they would make a cruise ship environment entirely believable without it just having it so that the cruise ship is standing in one spot the whole time. And let's say if they did give us cruise ships anyways, I think the way they would do this is through a tropical themed expansion pack. But in my opinion, those resources that would go into developing cruise ships, I'd rather see put into other stuff that I would use more often, like swimming in the ocean, or scuba diving, or running hotels. So yeah, I would say cruise ships are something that is very, very low on my wish list. Because honestly, I don't really imagine cruise ships being all that exciting an experience. I guess it would be kind of nice to have as an occasional storytelling thing, but it's like, okay, just go on a boat and do the same things that you would normally do while on land. So I feel like the main way of getting me to actually enjoy a cruise ship experience is to have some really cool scenery going by, and just being able to maybe get seasick if your Sims have certain traits. And I guess it could be an interesting way of meeting new friends or potential love interests, and yeah, maybe the possibility of hitting an iceberg and having your Sims die. But I don't know if I want that, because I feel like going on a cruise ship should be a pleasant experience, so maybe you just have to do something, like go out of your way to trigger an event where the ship would crash. But yeah, overall I would imagine a cruise ship being a sort of pleasant, tropical island sort of experience, and just going along with that theme. Although, actually, now that I'm seeing this whole Castaway situation go on here with this footage, maybe cruise ships could be a way of justifying bringing Castaway stories to The Sims 4. Although then, I really feel like, at that point, if you were to go that far, you'd have to do a whole pack just for the cruise ship experience and the Castaway survival sort of thing, because yeah, if you try to fit too many things into one pack, then there's going to be a lot of cut corners and sacrifice depth and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, that could be a thing, but I think it would be a very hard sell. I don't know if it would be as difficult to sell as more unrealistic sort of gameplay, but I don't know. I just don't think it's going to happen, especially since Grant did say that research for cruise ships tested very badly. Next we have Time Sage, great username by the way, saying, speaking of Time to the Past, I wish there was more interaction between this pack and past ones, like a vampire should drink the strange fruit like a plasma fruit, and possessed aliens get special interactions. Stuff like that, cute optional stuff that ties packs together. And Grant replies saying, this is something we're frustrated by. Ultimately, the percentage of players who own packs A, B, and Y are usually a very small sliver, so it's very hard to justify taking away new features from the pack for features only a few people will see. Drives us crazy. Need to figure it out. And Hannah Hughes says, I've always thought this too, connecting packs, like if you had cats and dogs and get to work equals animal shelter, or cats and dogs and dine out equals cat cafe. I've just never made a game, so I can't imagine how difficult that would be. And Grant replied to that saying, it just means we put in significant work and features that only a few people, relatively speaking, can appreciate, and if you pay $40 for cats and dogs, and you cannot play 10% because you don't own Get to Work and Parenthood, you might be angry. And then Water Kingy says, what about my first pet stuff? Grant? And Grant replies saying, there it is. It was an experiment. For a long time, we've wanted to expand expansions, like give more content for packs people love. I'd love to return to Get to Work or add more holidays for seasons, as opposed to never returning to them. Did we succeed? And, well, I think the answer to that last part is pretty obvious. No, did not succeed. Though he did say, in terms of sales, it did decently in the past. So I guess it depends on what specifically you're talking about. If you're talking about how the community received this, then no, absolutely not. The pack got so much backlash. But yeah, it seems like it's still sold decently enough, so it's not like as if they completely wasted their time making that pack, unfortunately. Though at least in the case of my first pet stuff, it's $10, because originally we were talking about having animal shelters if you also own Get to Work, and cat cafes if you also own Dine Out. So if those were both put into the game, you'd have to spend about $100 to get the whole experience, because you'd be buying cats and dogs, you'd be buying Dine Out, which is $20, and then you'd be buying Get to Work, which is another $40 or more, depending on where you live. So I can totally imagine there being a lot of uproar about that too. Though I will say that I wouldn't mind if this sort of like expansion for expansions idea was done again, but on a very small scale. Like, let's use Strangerville and Cats and Dogs as an example. Like, if you owned both of those packs, then that would unlock tinfoil hats for your cats and dogs to wear. Just a cute, silly little thing, and it would take up like 3 items out of the item count of Strangerville. So yeah, because you'd have one tinfoil hat for the cats, and you have one for small dogs, and you have one for big dogs. So it's just a small percentage of a larger pack type, instead of it being where there's so much of the DLC for DLC taking up a percentage of a smaller pack type. And the holidays idea that Grant suggested would be good too, just like having more traditions that integrate features from future packs, whatever they may be. Just a little sort of extra thing like the club rules, where it's not like a critical feature, but it is a little extra something if you own more than just one pack, so it does reward customer loyalty in a way too, so it is also good for business when done right. And on the subject of worlds, Aussie Sim says, "We need more worlds that are inspired by Europe, thanks." And Grant says, "Yep," and I agree. I wouldn't mind seeing more European worlds, as long as they are very different looking from Windenburg. Like, say, Monte Vista from The Sims 3, like that I would still say is very different compared to Windenburg. So Windenburg did cover some of Europe, but I guess that was more Central Europe, like around Germany, so I wouldn't mind seeing an Italian-inspired world again, or something like Greece, or maybe something that takes inspiration from Northern Europe, like Norway, Sweden, Finland. I think that could be really interesting as well. And if they did a farming expansion pack, because there was some discussion on Twitter about that recently, not really with the Simgurus, but just amongst other Simmers, I think that would be a really great way to do a UK-inspired world, because I don't think that's really been done before at all in The Sims, and it could be an interesting way to incorporate farmland without it being just yet another US-based world, because goodness gracious, we have so many of those and we just got another one with Strangerville. And a tiny bit of an update on disabilities. So Daniel says, "I know you can't say it's 100% coming, but is disability still a thing you guys are doing?" And Grant replies with, "Incorporating this feature is something we're trying to figure out." So not too much to say there, but at least the idea has not been scrapped. It's still possible, but I can definitely imagine this being very challenging because it's just a sensitive area. It really is. It's a very touchy subject, so I feel like it is just about impossible to do this sort of thing and not make a lot of people angry. I mean, nowadays it feels like with every pack release there is something controversial, like a recycled house, or a small world, or a feature where it's just like, wait a minute, why did they do this time around, like with the uncontrollable pets? So imagine how much controversy disabilities would cause amongst the community and just gamers in general if they really did manage to do this. Of course, that's not to say that everybody would hate it, because there is still the chance that they could generally pull this feature off decently well and make a lot of people happy because they'll feel included. But I do feel like with disabilities especially, this is something that's much easier to do wrong than it is to do right. And lastly, A Sims Joy asks Grant, "It's possible if someday we could have new options in Create a Sim like Zodiac sign, music preference, color, food. I miss this so much." And Grant says, "It's a great feature we should try to figure out." And that's pretty encouraging, because this is something I've been saying for a while now, that we really need to have the favorites return. And the Zodiac signs as well, I don't really want them as much, but especially the favorites. There are some favorites that exist in the game already, like the weather preferences, political alignment, and favorite movies, but they're decided through social interactions, which is okay, I guess, but I don't like that it's the only way to do that. I think that should be available in Create a Sim as well. I'd really love it if there was a free update that came out that added favorites into Create a Sim, and initially you would have ones like favorite food, favorite drink, favorite music if you only own the base game. But then if you do own the appropriate packs, like Movie Hangout or Seasons, then you could also, from Create a Sim, decide things like the Sim's favorite movie or their weather preferences. And that wraps up another Sims info/thoughts video, so feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on any of the topics that I covered in this video. And be sure to leave a like or a comment or even subscribe, because it really lets me know that you like my content and it helps you keep up to date more easily with my latest stuff from The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!